Welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast. My name is Ian Ray, your host, and today I have Ian McNamara, also the owner of Wear clothing brand, but based out of Boston, Massachusetts. Ian, welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Did you know my name was Ian?
Yeah, it's fun. Have you ever had another Ian on before?
No, I have not. But I think you're going to be my first one because I have another Ian probably going to be on the podcast in several down the road.
Cool.
Good to see another Ian coming to the space. Man, explain to us and kind of give us like your story background as far as like how you got into toe socks, how you got into even creating this brand of organic material for people to wear.
Sure. So I got injured. I played baseball in college. I got injured the summer before my senior season. I tore my UCL in my elbow, a pretty common baseball injury. And that kind of motivated me to, look a little bit deeper. A lot of the treatment and the way that injury is addressed is like just focusing on the arm. And I think most people know that that's probably not the full story. So I got into just like that kind of ground up philosophy and started looking into barefoot shoes and toe socks and sort of realized that there wasn't a organic cotton option that satisfied what I was looking for. So like there are some, but they're blended with other synthetic materials. So there's a little bit of organic cotton in there, but also nylon and polyester. And I was kind of getting to a point where I was shifting away from those materials in what I was wearing. And in trying to find toe socks that met that criteria as well, I couldn't find them. So it took a little while to figure out how to make them, but found the right, factory and made it happen. And that was kind of the origin of it. And then through that was able to learn more about the apparel production process and how many issues there are with sustainability and waste, and just the amount of synthetic fibers used is really pretty crazy to think about. Led to solving some other problems or attempting to solve some other problems. So created boxers and shorts, and now we've got sweatpants. So basically want to give a pure option for people. And I kind of view the foot health stuff, the toe socks and barefoot shoes kind of are addressing like what natural footwear, not necessarily always natural materials, but like how your feet are designed to move and exist. And I think it kind of flows well with clothing as well. So it's not like, it sometimes feels a little disjointed, but it's not necessarily disjointed.
Yeah. I guess for you, how long have you been wearing toe socks, barefoot shoes, and whatnot?
A couple of years now, and we launched about a year ago. So um, I was wearing polyester toe socks for a little while, but
Would you say, because most people probably have this misconception about organic polyester, like, is it really that bad to wear polyester? Give us give us
Mhm.
your pitch of why people should switch to organic.
Well, so I think there are a couple of issues. One of the things that people talk about the most is like the chemical exposure, like being directly on your skin. So there are a lot of dangerous chemicals used in the production of polyester, which is basically plastic. So PET is the kind of chemical term for polyester, and that's the same material that's used in water bottles, which is why they're able to, you know, take those water bottles, melt them, and spin them into fibers, and that's how we get recycled polyester. And so when you think about it that way, it sounds less appealing to put on your skin, because we all know that, you should try to avoid, drinking out of plastic water bottles all the time if you can. People are drinking out of glass and, stainless steel now. So it's really, that's number one, is the exposure to chemicals, microplastics coming out of it. And then there's the other issue, which is kind of a bigger picture. 35% of the microplastics in the ocean come from polyester clothing. And also nylon and other synthetic fabrics. And then that's kind of why we're then ingesting so much, is that, every time you wash a synthetic garment, put it in the dryer, that's going back into the ecosystem. And then we're ingesting it, animals are ingesting it, we're getting it in our food through the fish or through the meat that, we're eating. So it's like a lot of the issues that people have, health issues that we view as like environmental issues, can be traced back to just the use of synthetic materials in our lives, not just clothing.
Yeah. I think once one thing I looked into is obviously switching easily is the plastic bottles. Like you're saying, clothing as well. Just because like when you sweat, skin
Mhm.
absorbs moisture, and so you don't want that into your body. So it totally makes sense. But
Yep.
you're trying to make this move. You're trying to help people to obviously wear toe socks, to even think about just changing a lifestyle, right? And I mean, lifestyle changes itself. It can be pretty hard, or it can be pretty easy, just depending on I guess what you think is hard and easy. But kind of give me like a rundown of like when you're creating your products, especially toe socks, the boxers, and the shorts. What Where do you get your inspiration from? I mean, what goes into even creating these? I mean, tell me the process, I guess.
Yeah, so the toe socks are unique because it's kind of a unique product to begin with, and people who wear toe socks are very particular about the length of the toes and that sort of thing. So there are already toe socks that exist on the market, and a lot of them are pretty good. So the idea with that, and this kind of became our overarching kind of design principle, was not to try to reinvent anything, but to just, make it so that the materials were what we wanted. So kind of view Maro as a materials first company. So for our boxers, for example, the big difference, there are a lot of organic cotton boxers out there. Our big difference is that we use a natural rubber waistband. So every boxer out there, that says 100% cotton is, if it has an elastic waistband, that's, that can't be 100% cotton. So usually the term is exclusive of trim. So waistband is considered trim. We wanted to make it so that, we didn't have to hide that kind of information. So we're actually very proud of what our waistband is made of, but that's something simple where it takes a lot of work to find that kind of material and source it and get it to the right place, find a factory that's interested in working with something that they haven't worked with before. But that's kind of I think what makes us different is that we're willing to take the extra step and source materials where we need to source them and kind of take products, figure out, like, even if it's a super small problem, what's wrong with them, and then, do it our own way. If that makes sense.
So where do you source your products from, and where do you manufacture?
So it's a little bit all over the place. So the socks are made in China. That's a lot of people ask about that. The reality is that the machines that make toe socks aren't available outside of Asia. So that limits us to a few options: China, Vietnam, and maybe a few others. And the other products we were making in Portugal for a really long time. So boxers, shorts. And now we're moving a little bit of that to Turkey. So really just trying to figure that out as we go. And this year has been a bit interesting with tariffs and trying to navigate that situation as well. So yeah, it's kind of, we do the best we can to find factories that, number one, have certifications that we're looking for, but beyond certifications, I do my best to personally go to the factories and actually see what's going on, because certification is really just paperwork. So you want to get on the ground and see what's happening. I haven't been to China yet, but I went to our previous factory in Portugal and another one that we were using in Europe as well. So yeah, it's tough to make stuff domestically in the US right now, but that's ultimately a goal as well. But yeah.
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think it's so hard to make things here? I mean, in the U.S., which you would think they would, but why?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a number of things. The main thing is really cost. So for example, in Portugal, you can have a really nice quality of life earning um, you know, what here in the US would be considered, you'd really struggle getting by. And so that's a situation where you're not taking advantage of people by making something in Portugal.
Hmm.
They're still, paid well. And, it's a nice place to live. A lot of people in the States wish they lived in Portugal. So it's not, it's not that kind of situation where you're taking advantage of people. Um, so that's one thing, and the other thing is, I think over the past few decades, a lot of places have built up capacity and expertise, and they have all the infrastructure for manufacturing, and we've sort of lost that. And so, to manufacture here, we'd have to build it back. So ultimately, I think if we were to manufacture here at a large scale, it would have to be our own facilities and our own manufacturing. And that's, we're a super small company, just started. So that's a long way off, but it is a potential, it's a goal that, I think about from time to time.
I forgot to ask you. you came up, I know probably on your homepage it talks about the name Maro,
Mhm.
Marrowbone. Kind of tell us why you came up with the word Maro as a
Yeah,
brand.
so I think I was looking for a name that was easy to remember, but also kind of got at the concept that so the marrow bone is where our cells are regenerated. So thinking about performance clothing, which is kind of what we started with the idea of performance clothing, athletic clothing, rather than it just being focused on like how it looks on the outside or how it performs on the outside with sweat or how you know it you know performs in that sort of situation. Like how's the internal part of the body responding to it? So does it have a lot of toxins that are then getting into your system? And I think that that's something that the big activewear brands don't really address at all. So we want to address that issue. And um, it also means vitality, so that kind of is a dual meaning that's pretty good for an activewear and just health wellness clothing brand.
Yeah, yeah, definitely polyester clothing for a lot of
Hmm.
those mesh, for those
Yeah,
athletic wear. So I totally get it. Just having to look at the tag and say, "Oh crap, that's a lot of stuff, synthetic clothing I'm wearing,"
yeah,
and then people are
yeah.
working out and sweating, and so yeah, it totally doesn't make sense. Even like what, let's say like cotton, organic cotton, you have wool, you have even like what you call it, bamboo. So those are, what would you
Mhm.
say, more friendlier options for your body, correct?
Yeah, so I think out of those three, organic cotton and wool are definitely like a rung above. And then it depends really on how the bamboo is processed. A lot of it because bamboo is a grass and it's kind of like it's pretty hard, so you wouldn't be able to just make it into clothing without really they use in many cases a heavy chemical called carbon disulfide, and so that can affect the workers who are making the product more so than the end user of it. But it's one of those situations where there's nuance to it. So you just have to be a little cautious. There are definitely brands out there using bamboo for talking about it fully as a natural fiber. It's a little bit more complicated. There are some other ones that are, use tree
Hmm.
material. And so Tencel is another one that is pretty good with, the amount of chemicals that are used and how they treat the chemicals. Like, so are they just getting dumped into a river or are they being recycled and that sort of thing? So I would lean more towards Tencel versus, bamboo. I think the company that produces Tencel might have a bamboo uh, product, but yeah, it's once you start getting into those fabrics, it's a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm sure this has like been a crazy journey for you, just learning how like the manufacturing production, like things that us
Yeah.
as consumers don't go into. So like I know
Yeah.
you're out there working and really collaborating with other partners, brands, as far as showcasing your product. So for people who are, let's say, into barefoot shoes, foot health, what do you think they should switch to toe socks, specifically organic toe sock? Why should they? Because like I could wear barefoot shoes with regular socks, but we're kind of talking about, you give me your take, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the main thing is with barefoot shoes, you're investing in let's say someone's just trying them out for the first time.
Hmm.
Um, you've made an investment in trying to improve your foot health. And I think the main thing is you'd want to take full or, set yourself up in the best way possible. And I think that the key thing is the wide toe box, right? A traditional sock is not going to let you take advantage of that wide toe box because it's going to keep your foot in that kind of narrow, binded, usually by elastic material, position. And so you're not going to get to take advantage of it. Toe socks allow you to take advantage of the wide toe box in the same way that you'd be able to if you were barefoot in the shoe and not wearing socks. And so I think it's a pretty cheap way to just maximize what you're doing. And if you've been wearing barefoot shoes for a while and just have, use normal socks with them and you are noticing improvements, I think the improvements will be even better wearing toe socks. And as far as our brand versus other, synthetic toe socks, I think, as I was talking about before, it's just an area where you'd want to when you're putting stuff right on your skin, it's better to use, cleaner materials, and the feet are actually pretty absorbent compared to other areas of the body. So it's just another step you can take to maximize the health of your feet and your whole body.
Yeah, makes sense. It's just think of socks. I'm assuming there's a lot of sweat underneath there, so you want to protect your feet.
Yep.
I think another reason for me when I switched into toe socks is just locking in that the changes of my foot to become
Hmm.
more splay. Like if I was to
Yep.
continue to wear socks, regular socks, but I'm trying to get out of it and go into barefoot shoes, it's not going to lock in place the effort and time I'm trying to get that splay back. So I think
Hmm.
it totally makes sense for people
Yeah.
to switch it to toe socks.
Yeah, for sure. One of my favorite phrases, Andy Bryant mentioned it when I think it was a while back when I was first starting the brand, was that they're like a gentle toe spacer. And so you'd wear a toe spacer maybe when you're at home watching TV, or doing something, more passive for 15 minutes or something during the day. But if you're out and about wearing toe socks, you kind of have a similar effect. It's not going to be like as harsh or as strong, but your toes, because there's a little bit of fabric there, are still getting that stimulation to kind of guide them into separating a little bit better.
Yeah, that's true. So what are your favorite benefits that you like to promote and share with people of wearing toe socks or even barefoot shoes that you probably have shared in the past?
Yeah, so I think the toe splay is the number one thing, and just as I said, maximizing the toe box, the wider toe box. I think the big key is the big toe, and that's the thing I talk about the most, especially if you're doing anything that requires force, like any sort of exercise. Like I encourage people, if they're doing a squat or anything like that, deadlift, whatever, to like really try to put some weight on their big toe, especially if they're wearing toe socks. It'd be a lot easier to do if you're wearing toe socks versus, socks that are, pushing your big toe inwards, and just feel the difference in how your glutes feel versus if you were just, using normal socks and wearing Converse, for example, where your toes aren't able to move that way. I think it makes a huge difference. And then there are some other benefits, like you won't get as many blisters. There's, moisture buildup when you're using normal socks that happens between your toes that you don't get when there's fabric there. So those are kind of, I would say, good, nice benefits, but they're, not the big ones. So I think the proper foot posture is really the most important thing.
And as far as like your brand, where do you see Maro going in the next 5-10 years? Do you plan to continue to release new products? Or are you trying to do it more
For sure.
sustainable, continue to have sustainable products?
For sure, for sure. So I think we've done a good job of, addressing basics. Like we have our socks, we have the boxers, shorts. So see us getting a bit more complex over the next, year or so, and doing, more interesting stuff that um, solves, I guess, bigger problems. But at the same time, kind of, for example, like our boxers, they're in one style. So I'd like to add a few different styles, give more options to people. Same thing with our socks. So we're introducing a kind of mini crew height in the next couple months. We're also going to do some merino wool toe socks as well. So just expanding, what we know works and what we know people want, and offering them more options is important. Than using, you know, the growth that we're able to get from that to experiment and see if people like other things. But ultimately, long term, I see us as more like a, not just fully 100% clothing, but as a brand that people can go to for health and wellness, and when they're really trying to improve, how they're feeling and everything like that. Because I think the natural fibers are really interesting, but the fact that our first product was toe socks kind of grounds us in the fact that it's not just, materials or, a specific product, but this general idea of, treating your body kind of as it was designed to be treated. Not forcing it into these kinds of things that are just, out of the modern world, and, really kind of going back to how our body was designed.
And where do you see barefoot shoes or even toe socks in the future
Mhm.
evolving as the more people are getting into natural footwear, toe socks? Where do you see that going?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of gone, even in the last couple of years, from a niche thing into more of a performance oriented thing. So I think athletes are realizing that it's a competitive advantage to care about their feet because, for example, most cleats have a really narrow toe box, which in some cases someone might view that as important for that particular activity, but still, you know, getting out of those and, wearing more foot friendly footwear can be really important. So I think we're going to go on a shift from, more of like the outdoors, and natural, kind of crowd to like a performance oriented, um, group. And I think that that's where we can really expand things because if you look at Nike, you look at Adidas and, their connection to professional athletes and all of that, that kind of drives what those guys are doing and, professional athletes are doing kind of drives what, the rest of the population does. So I think that kind of adoption will really help grow, mainstream adoption of barefoot shoes and toe socks as well.
And for you, what are you doing to create more awareness for your brand and exposure, I guess?
Yeah, so just trying to get ourselves out there and create content that's educational. That's something I need to do a better job of explaining things to people. But I think there's a lot of interest in our products already, or our type of product, I guess. And so figuring out how to message to people, I think try to stay positive. I think with the kind of stuff we're doing, like with natural fibers, there could be, there's potential where you could be super negative and say, oh, you need to buy these, boxers, otherwise you're not going to be able to have kids and, that kind of crazy stuff. And there are brands that do that. We want to stay more positive about it and view it as a way to enhance your life
Hmm.
rather than, you know, using fear as a motivator. And so you think about toe socks, for example, someone switching from, regular sock to toe socks, that's a way that their life improves. It's not likely that normal socks or normal shoes are ruining their life, but we can add value to their lives by, guiding them in the right direction when it comes to their feet.
Love that. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think that's much better. And I think people will gravitate towards that type of positive message in a fear tactic way. So keep doing what you're doing,
For
brother.
sure.
Uh,
Appreciate it.
love to close this podcast with you sharing with the audience how people can follow you, learn more about what you're doing there in Maro. So if you want to share a social media handle, email, a website, and of course, any way that they can contact and learn more about you.
Sure. So it's our website and Instagram handle are both the same. So it's our brand name is Maro, but these days it's kind of hard to get a domain name. So it's WearMaro, WearMaro. That's .com. And then on Instagram, it's just WearMaro. And our email is hello@wearmaro.com. So pretty easy to reach us. It'll be me answering everything, at least at the moment, for the next few months. So yeah, it's always great to hear from people.
Cool, man. Well, hey, appreciate you hopping onto the podcast, sharing your story. I think that's great. More people who are wanting to get into organic material, such as your products, and there's definitely a need for it. So thanks for doing all the work that you're doing, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Thank you. It's been
Yeah.
great.
All right, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the Stretch to Go podcast. Subscribe. We release new episodes 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Spotify and YouTube. Take care, everyone.